I'm Jim and this is Jim's Fix-It Shop. Today we're going to put the front end together and get it in the rear case. But first we're going to use some of my famous anti-seize lubricant, and that's why we have the gloves on. Now, I had a viewer send me a comment when last time I used this, and if you don't wear gloves, you usually have this stuff all over you. He told me why. And the Permatex former gasket I use on the differential and chain cases is the same thing. You have it all over you. Well, he said, why you do that? He says, this anti-seize lubricant is a living organism, and once it's released from the container, it travels everywhere all by itself. And you know, that kind of makes sense. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to put some down inside this rear case and some on the new pilot bushing. I don't know how far I can get it down in there, so I'll probably put some on the bushing also. That will spread it down in as I insert it. Maybe we'll try to put some in from the bottom side up inside of the tube. Well, that don't look too bad. Now we'll smear some on here. And we're going to want to put a rag I'm hanging on to the cover and I already got some on my hand. I want to put a rag down here because when I shove that through, I know it's going to push some of it out the bottom. That is a tight fit. Well, I can't say I've ever had one that tight. I guess I'm going to have to get me a piece of board to help push that down in there. Wow. I think that's down all the way. I hate to pick that up. Another rag. Wipe this off. Oh boy, that's a mess. So much for the paint job. Wipe some of this out of the bottom. Now we want to paint some on the end of this tube. This is a spacer. Why they have this in here, I have no idea. Now this is recessed, so they're using that to keep the edges of this rectangular tube from gouging into here. That's what that's for. Hey, we figured something out. Now we want to drag this down here a little bit and slop this up pretty good. We don't want this rusting up and sticking. Now this was pretty rusty, and I cleaned it up using my right angled die grinder with a wire wheel. Does an excellent job. Now we'll see if we can get this down in there, or if this is going to be a really tight fit. Let's see. I'm going to spin this around. I think before I put that on, he had two spacers in there for the snap them right there to tighten the belt up for his moor deck. So we'll put them back in right now and won't have to worry about it later. Well, that fits good. We'll put the nut on later. Right now what I want to do is start putting the front end together. Okay, we got the pedal. Want to get in your way, I have to slide this through. In there. Okay, I stopped and looked for a minute, and I'm missing my snap ring that goes on the other side of this pedal. So I'm gonna have to, if I can't find it, I'm gonna have to go buy one. I want to put this bolt in. We can find a hole here. Kinda takes 3 hands, I guess. Well, I guess. I don't know why they got an 1.25 inch long bolt when the threads start about 1/16 of an inch past this pedal. Can't figure that one out. That's it. We'll have to find that snap ring. That kind of holds this thing where it's supposed to be as far as being centered. Now we want to get these bushings. Should have 5 of these. What did I do? My scissors, here they are. I need 4 for the kingpins and 1 for the steering shaft. They're all the same. And the number for these little buggers is right there on the end of my finger. We'll snap them in. Boy, some of these really fit tight. We'll get a small rubber mallet. Tap them in. Now the Kingpins. His are pretty much shot. They needed to be replaced, and unfortunately you cannot buy the left-hand Kingpin. They're obsolete. So I just happen to have a set out of one of these I tore apart that is in really good shape. There's no wear grooves in them that go through the frame or through the tires. So we're going to use these. And of course I assembled them so I wouldn't lose any of the parts. So we got to get the snap rings off. And try to figure out which side is which here. There's one thrust washer that goes on the bottom, and this one, the machine I took this out of had 3 on the top. But this doesn't look like it's going to need 3. Looks like I only need 2. You want to build it up on the top side. Get these things painted together. So if you got any room, you want to build it up on the top, not the bottom. And we'll put the snap ring on. This is one of them jobs where you wish you had 3 hands. It keeps going down. That's just not cooperating, so we're going to get the other side on, and I'll try to put that together off camera. Get that one off. Let's see how many spacers we need on this one. That looks like it might need 3. Yep. So let me try to get these things on. I don't have to hold them somehow. I'll be right back. Okay, we got that on. I actually had to get a bungee cord and put on there to hold that thing in so I could get that snap ring on. Now, for these bushings for the steering shaft, the machine calls for 5 of these. and 4 go on your kingpins. 1 goes on the top for the steering shaft. And it calls for 1 of these. And here's this part number. And the only difference between them is that one's black and one's white. But the ID is a little smaller on this one than it is on these. So I bought 2 black ones. That way my steering wheel won't be slopping around because the hole in this one is a little bit bigger. So we're going to put this one in the bottom. And we're going to put this one in the top. Now my steering shaft. This is a one out of, again, another machine, because I had to cut his off because the steering wheel would not come off. So we're going to slide this up through here now. And as you can tell, it slides right past like it's supposed to. The other one had this big washer welded on. You can see a little weld here. I have no clue. Don't know. But I had an awful time getting it out because it hit. So now we'll put the cotter keys in the top. The bottom of the shaft has the thrust washer on it. And I gotta find another thrust washer. Be right back. Okay, now we have to put this cotter key on the top. I've got a thrust washer that goes up against the nylon bushing, and we got to get this key in here, but we have to bend it around tight enough, whoops, so it goes inside of this little plastic cup. And these are pretty stiff cotter keys. See if that fits. Oh, that's what we want. Now we'll shove that up in there and put the cotter key in the bottom. But before we do, make sure you slide down the thrust washer that goes just under the cotter key. This one doesn't have to be bent as tight as the top one. It's got to be bent tight enough though to clear this flange they got welded under here for some reason. It does not want to clear. There we go. A tight spot to work in. there's that. Now I gotta grab a couple more bushings for the kingpins. Be right back. Okay, now we have a little snag, but it's not the end of the world. Steering shaft that was pretty much shot is around $130 or something. So they're way over $100. But if you notice, the holes in these are 5/16 in diameter, and it fits the 5/16 bolts on the end of the tie rods. And the kingpins had the same size hole. These kingpins and steering shaft is out of a different SR machine, smaller. The holes are bigger, so it needs the nylon bushings. This, when I was going through the parts list, this machine did not list bushings, so I didn't order any. And I couldn't have used them anyway. This is a 1/2-inch diameter hole in the kingpins and the steering shaft. Well, that's not going to fit. And it's not going to fit in here. So what we'll do, the steering shaft I could have bought. The right-hand kingpin I could have bought. $120, I can't remember, obsolete. I cannot buy one of these. No one has one. And they were 100 and something. So what I'll do Monday when I go to work, we'll make bushings this thick to press in here and reduce this 1/2-inch hole down to 5/16. Not a big deal. So we're not going to put the tie rods on, and I probably won't put the tires on because that'll just make these things a lot heavier to try to get to later. So what we can do now is we can put the wire in for the ignition switch. I can find it down here. It's one of these. Ignition switch has 3 contacts on it. So this is the plug I want. Now to get this thing in there, you have to put the plug through this little hole down in here. I guess you can see it better from this side. Well, maybe you can't. It's back there. Before you put the cable in. Otherwise, there's not room. So we're going to shove this up through the tube. And I don't know why they have that going through that hole anyway. Personally, I don't think it should go there. So we're going to put this ignition switch back in. Yeah, I dropped a nut. This is another 3-handed job. And the hole the ignition switch goes into has a flat side on it, so the switch will only go in one way. Now we'll shove this up through there. somewhere I had to go through. I wish I could adjust you down a little bit. I'm going to shove this up through the tube. And it comes out here. And we're going to shove it up through here. And you probably can't see, but we're going to plug this in on the back of the ignition switch. And they got that thing right smacking away. Just like that. Now I want to put the bolt in down here. This thing is spinning around quite a bit. And oh my goodness, it's going to scratch my paint. Now we're going to put the bolt in there. We'll just screw the nut on as far as I can get it, and that'll be good enough. Now we'll turn it by this. Get these wires up here. Now we can put the accelerator cable in. And I gotta grab me a... It definitely need more room. I have to have a Torx bit for this. And we'll shove this down through the tube. There's not a whole lot of room in here. Yikes. Spin this thing around. And we can put the screws in to hold that in place. I just don't want to line up for some reason. Now, did you notice that we got new stickers? And you got a new one up here. Actually, they're not new. I was successful in peeling them off of one of the other machines I tore apart. And seeing there's no size on the stickers, the size are these little plastic things, it fit right on there. It looks like new. These are held on right here with double face foam tape. And I have some over there, we'll be putting that on. So I guess until I get them bushings made for the Kingpin and steering shaft, that's about as far as we're going to be able to go. I've got the little dashboard I could put in here, but I guess we'll do that at a later date. So please don't forget to subscribe and work safe, have fun, and keep on snapping. We'll talk to you soon. So long.